What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses. I want to talk about some very important levels on Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. What's going on with the economic data that's coming out for today, who's going to be giving speeches, what just happened with some big earnings that just came out. But before I bring these all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. I also want to note that I'm recording this video at 5 o'clock in the morning before the market has even opened. So I might sound a little quiet, a little bit more quiet than usual, since I don't want to wake up the neighbors and stuff. So anyways, now let's break down what's happening to the market so far. Looking at SPY, this thing is actually up 0.06% in the pre-market, super flat, super choppy. We got initial jobless claims that helped this thing try to bounce a bit, but we're still stuck in our range, not really doing a whole lot. We're going to be watching this head and shoulders like setup if this is going to play out or not. Now, for data, we just got initial jobless claims. This was hot, 231,000. That's above the forecast and the consensus. This is what helped the market pump a little bit because the market knows that the Fed is de-incentivized to give us another rate hike if we're getting hot initial jobs claims. So the jobs numbers are getting a little bit weaker, at least for the overall sector, and the unemployment numbers are getting a bit stronger, right? And that's exactly what the Fed, wants to see. That's what the market is liking so far. Now, the market was red in the beginning, turned a little green, just barely in the green once this came out. We're kind of choppy overall. Now, besides that, we don't have anything else. We have Williams from the Fed giving a speech. We have some housing data coming out today. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have some bill auctions coming out, and then more Fed speakers pretty much for today. So that's pretty much it. Just Fed speakers and some minor pieces of data here and there for the rest of the day. But don't forget that for tomorrow, we have the OPEX expirations for SPY and the whole market. We have millions of puts expiring tomorrow, so we'll see what happens with this. I'll talk more about that later on. We had some earnings come out, such as Walmart. Walmart ended up dropping because their outlook was not the best. We were talking about how even though their sales are still holding up decently, at least for the time being, their outlook and guidance was very mixed, a little bit soft, and this led to Walmart selling off. Now it beat the fiscal earnings, which was not bad whatsoever. They did relatively well. They beat on EPS, revenue was a beat, and they posted decent looking sales. But like I said before, guys, outlook was not the best, and that's still affecting them, and that's why Walmart is down. Now, when it comes to some things about the markets, inflation is easing, looking at wholesale prices and CPI, at least according to the data. Shoppers are visiting Walmart more often. They're spending more often when they do. But the thing is, despite this, like I said before, outlook was not the strongest. We saw lower expectations for that, and we'll be watching this very carefully. Microsoft's AI dream is once again coming up. This is going to be very important because they announced that it's introducing its first chip made by AI. It's going to be competing with Nvidia's highly sought after AI graphics processing units or GPUs. I will be watching this carefully as well for Microsoft, but this is actually a big development for their company. On top of this, Starbucks workers are walking out in the largest strike the union has ever outstaged. This is very important. We'll be watching to see how this affects Starbucks, and these are just continuing throughout the country. On top of this, Red Bull is winning. It's winning basically looking at the Formula One races so far. And it's been coming on top at 19 out of the 20 Grand Prix weekends so far. So good news for them, great for their team. We'll be watching this as well for the company. So that's pretty much it for news affecting the markets. Now let's break down the charts. How on earth are things looking? So as for SPY, we're very flat in the pre-market. Okay, we've been going back and forth between supply and demand. And we're not really moving that much. We're only up 0.15 cents or like 15 cents during the pre-market relative to how we closed yesterday. So we're going to be watching this carefully. Now, going back to some of the things I said yesterday, that is, the market is getting some signals that suggest that we could be topping right here with this head and shoulders like pattern on SPY. Same thing on the QQQ. However, if we break above the 452s and start pushing, that's going to invalidate these signals. Okay. So we're going to be watching, do we break 452? If that happens, I will turn bullish. But if we fail to do so and we continue to chop here and we end up sinking, we're going to be watching a key support to see if it breaks. So we're going to be watching the 50 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame. If we lose this support right here at 448.9, we start seeing this thing falling to the 448. There's going to be a risk of more downside once we enter this gap support, and this thing might start sinking to 446 as the next level. So there's going to be some risk of downside if we do end up breaking below that 50 EMA. And I want to be watching that very, very carefully. So what are some levels to watch for specifically? Basically, if 452 breaks, we're bullish. We're bearish if we see this thing lose 448. We'll be watching 447.5, 446.5. If that breaks, it's going to likely start sinking lower into like the 444 area. In my opinion, I was showing you guys a lot of different signals from the bearish divergence to the Bollinger Band on the daily chart on SPY and etc., which all suggested that this thing might cool off soon. So there's going to be a risk to the downside. Notice how resistance in this 450 area is tight, so there might be a sell-off very, very soon. Now, with the QQQ, the same thing is developing. We have a head and shoulders like pattern that developed right over here. We're going to be watching to see if we get some kind of rejection or not. If we start breaking below 383.5, if we end up losing that, we're going to be watching 382. 0.8. If we lose that, we're going to start sinking even lower to 380. If you want to turn bullish, you want to see this thing eventually get back above like 388. Right now, we're popping a bit thanks to the unemployment numbers. But once again, guys, this could change intraday. So you want to be very careful. We're going to be watching this for the time being. And we're not really launching that hard. We're just like up a little bit so far. So we'll be watching to see if resistance breaks. Now, I also want to note that for Tesla stock, Tesla's down a bit in the pre-market, looking a little bit bearish. Looks like it might sink a bit. But we'll be watching if we pop first. It likes to pop in the morning, then start sinking. So look for a little pop and drop on Tesla. It's holding up decently so far, but the daily is showing potential topping signals, at least for the temporary period of time. I'm going to be watching that as well. Look for a little pop and drop on Tesla. For Tesla, if you want to be bullish, you want to see if Tesla could try to get above 242.5. If we break this, 245 plus is coming. And if 247 breaks, it's going to fly up to 250. And Tesla's trying to hold 238, this support right over here. If Tesla kind of like pops a bit, we could see a little like push up here, but watch and see if we end up breaking back below 240. If we pop and come back below it, 238 is going to be it. We have to hold 238. If we lose the 238, it's going to start sinking back down and possibly get close to the 235s. And if those fail us, then 232 is coming. Now, I think it might kind of like pop and drop a little lower, maybe chop around a bit, drop, pop, chop around, and then eventually drop down. But just to be safe, we'll be watching this head and shoulders like pattern and watch our levels. But just know that we might see a pop and drop on Tesla. It's looking a little weaker than the markets this morning, and we'll see how it goes. I didn't see too much news. That's the thing about it. I'm not seeing too much news dictating it so far, so we'll be patient for the time being. On Nvda, it's trying to rebound a bit, but it's just barely holding support right now at 482. If we're bullish, you want to see it break 488 and then 490. I would say 490 specifically. If it breaks this, we're going to be looking for 495. Now, the thing about Nvidia is, if I go back to Nvidia right here, you will see that on the 4-hour time frame, it's looking a bit more bearish. And if you look at the daily close was not the best going into yesterday. Now, it has the 5 EMA acting as support. We'll be watching that too. In my opinion, Nvidia could pop a little bit. Might try to make its way up to like 488 to 490, but watch and see if we reject over here. If we reject, we could be forming once again like a left shoulder, a right shoulder, like a head and shoulders, and just continue sinking. So if it sinks, you want to see if it could hold 480. If we lose this, we're going to be coming back down to 475. So it could be forming a head and shoulders. In my opinion, a little pop and drop is very possible, and it's not looking the strongest thus far. For Aapl stock, if Apple's bullish, you want to see this thing try to get, once again, not just at this level, but we want to see if we can break 190. We have some tight resistance up there. And for bearish, you want to see it reject and come back down below 188. Aapl popped a bit this morning during the pre-market, but if it loses that 188 support, it's going to turn bearish. Right now, it's just very flat. It's been kind of stationary going back and forth between the 188 support, maybe a little bit lower than that, just like 187.7, excuse me. And we have like 189.5. We're going back and forth and back and forth. If we reject off of this and start breaking down, it could start sinking. I also want to note, I think we have a possible head and shoulders like pattern on Aapl. Let me just double check this for you guys. We could be forming a top right here. This could be like a head and shoulders that's forming, but I don't know for sure just yet. Even if we do pop a bit more, we have this bearish divergence that's still developing. Going to be looking to see if we get rejection or not. Just be patient and we'll see what happens. But for now, guys, watch those levels I just called out. The market is trying to hold up in the pre-market, but you want to be very careful because things could change as we have some bearish signals starting to flash. Remember, if the market breaks particular levels, I could turn bullish if we break 452 on SPY. But if we fail to do so, we're going to likely still have a lot of sell signals that are pending. All right. So that's what I have for this one. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Thanks again and peace out.